Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Philip, and it is, what if there was an attacking operator in Rainbow Six Siege that could throw out a sensor grenade? It would spot everyone in a radius around the explosion, just like it would spot with a drone. Now, I will admit, the first time I read this, and I've gotten this question a lot, I just didn't think that it would be that useful of a gadget. This is exactly what the drones do. I mean, you say it in your question. Why not just drone out the objective, gather the information that way, and then you're good to go? Then I thought about it for a little bit longer, and I realized that, yeah, actually, this could be a viable operator, and it could actually bring something new to the table. There are some situations where you don't have a drone. Maybe it's getting down to the wire, and you need to get onto the objective. You have no idea where the enemy is inside the room itself. Well, what if you could just kind of toss this in really quickly, get a ping, red markers all over the place, or at least maybe one or two, and then you can use that information to your advantage. A lot of times when you're defending the objective on defense, you can't deviate from that location. As soon as you move, because offense have already opened up a bunch of different holes and hatches, as soon as you move from that spot, it leaves you pretty susceptible to enemy fire, and they're probably not coming out of it alive. And so as soon as you throw that grenade, you know where they are, they can't move, or if they do, they're gonna die, and that should give you a huge advantage. Another reason why this gadget could be useful is that if you have a general idea of where the enemy is, this could make wall bangs really easy. If the enemy's roaming around, you know that they're in a room, toss this out, wait for it to detonate, and as soon as it marks them with that red marker, just shoot them through the wall. Now, of course, this isn't going to be possible in every map, in every situation, because there's reinforced walls, you got the indestructible walls and stuff to that nature, but this could be one of the best ways at just getting wall bangs because you don't have to rely on your teammates. Usually, if you want to have this tactic work, you have to have your drone in there, which could get spotted, it could get taken down, and then you also have to have a teammate spot for you, and then rip into that spot as soon as it happens. This would kind of facilitate that process and also could be very annoying, and one of the reasons why they may not want to add someone like this. And so while I do like this idea, it's difficult to tell how useful it would actually be in reality. A lot of us thought when Jackal was first introduced that he was going to be overpowered. Not because of his weapons, apparently that was going to be the reason, but it was mainly because we thought that his gadget was going to make it impossible to roam around the map. Now we know that's not actually the case. He's still decent, he's still an okay operator, but nowhere near as good as we first thought, and I have a feeling that this guy might fall in the same category. The next question is, what do you think about being able to pick your operator after you select where you're going to spawn on defense? That is a very good question, and I don't know why Ubisoft hasn't designed it the way from the very beginning. A lot of times when I am defending, I have to pick my operator, figure out where we're spawning, and then go back and repick my operator because it changes the tactic, it changes what I wanted to do. There are some operators in this game that are very specialized to certain objectives. Mira is probably the best example of this. There are some rooms where Mira is a force to be reckoned with. There are some objective points where she's practically useless because there's no real viable spot for her to take advantage of her gadgets. Sometimes I want to try out a specific tactic with an operator that works in some locations and doesn't have any business in any other objective room, or just doesn't flat out work. And so I would love if Ubisoft made this slight change. The only thing I can think of for why they haven't done it yet is that they would fear that people may not have enough time to select their operators. If everyone's arguing as to where they want to spawn, then when they actually get to the operator screen, they don't have enough time to actually pick the ones that they want. Everyone's fumbling around for the exact operator that they want, and that could lead to some unoptimal picks. That's the only thing I can think of. And so I don't think it's the worst thing ever, because in reality, a lot of the operators are well balanced. Each objective room allows them to excel. As long as you change your tactics slightly, you can do well with any operator in the game. Like, I think that Ubisoft has done a very good job with balancing out all the operators. I just think that this would be a nice quality of life change. Like I said, they may not want to do it because of the reasons that I stated. I just don't really think that's a very good reason for why they've done it the way that they have. The next question comes from Aiden, and it is, what do you think about class-specific perks for each CTU, such as the SAS operators in Rainbow Six Siege not being affected by Smoke's gas grenades? This is actually something that I've thought about in the past, and some other people have brought up, because it only makes sense that the SAS operators that are all wearing gas masks Why would they be affected by the gas canister? Because Smoke isn't affected by his own gas canisters. It'd be kind of cool twist on the SAS operators, where if you know that they're constantly running Smoke and you want to kind of counter that, you could play as Sledge or Thatcher. The thing is, though, is that that's basically just a direct nerf to Smoke himself. Like, that doesn't add a different dynamic, that's just basically a direct nerf to one operator. On top of that, how do we add other perks for all of the other factions here? When you're playing as FBI, are you immune to the heartbeat sensor? Like, how do you add in something interesting here? Now, they could do what other games and first-person shooters have done, which is add in specializations or perks for each of the factions. If you're playing as FBI, maybe they all run faster than the other factions. That would make Ash even more of a nightmare, but that's one thing that they could do. Maybe if you're playing as Spetsnaz, you just have simply more ammo, way more ammo than all the other factions, so that you can just spray down range a lot more reliably. Now, if done correctly, it could add in a different layer of tactics that we don't currently have. I want to play as Blackbeard because his faction gets this, and I want to take advantage of that. Or I want to play as Hibana, not because of her breaching charge, but because of her perk that allows me to do something slightly different than all the other factions. I just don't think that it's necessary. At its core, this is a well-balanced game, and by introducing something even further than this, and further perks, I think that just might screw up the balance. Let's say they introduce a new faction. Well, now they need to balance that operator not only around the gun and the guns that they use and their gadget, which is already something that they have to think about, but they also now need to take this specialization or perk into consideration. That perk might be balanced for that one operator, but if they go to the other guy in the faction, it might be just completely useless or blatantly overpowered. That's something that would kind of constrain them further, and I just don't think that's necessary. And so while I do know where you're coming from, I've had this same thought. It doesn't make sense why someone who's using a gas mask is also going to be affected by those gas canisters. I just don't think this is something that we need in Rainbow Six Siege. The next question comes from Jelly, and it is, what do you think of an execution system for Player Unknown Battlegrounds, where if you come across a downed enemy just for dramatic/humiliation effect, you can execute them using a pistol instead of just unloading a gun into them? I really like this idea, and I actually like this idea a lot more than the execution system that I think that they were talking about. Now, I don't think they've gone into the exact details here. There's probably a lot of information that we just don't know, but they are talking about introducing kind of a backstab system where if you get behind someone, you can perform some sort of animation that it looks like you just one-shot the enemy. I'm not entirely sold on that. I have a suspicion that this would just make the early game a nightmare even more than it is. No one's gonna want to pick up the gun first because they might leave their back exposed while they're going through that process, leaving them susceptible to just getting one-shotted, which doesn't sound all that appealing. Now, once again, we may not have the full picture here. Maybe you need to have a melee weapon to perform these takedowns. That would actually be kind of cool. Or maybe the enemy needs to be low on health. But from what we saw during the little teaser, it looked like as long as you snuck up on the enemy and came from behind, you could take them out this way. And so the reason why I like your idea, and I realize I just deviated a lot there, apologies for that, is that you've already done the hard work. You've downed the enemy. You're just finishing them off. And while I wouldn't really recommend this, because if the enemy is in the down but not out stage, the enemy also has a teammate around because they are placed into that down injured state. There's someone else that could take you down. And so if you're going to risk it for the biscuit here, you really want to humiliate the enemy, then you're going to have that animation for that reward. The next question is, why are the updates for Rainbow Six Siege starting first on PC and then going to console? Well, it's to my understanding that this is Ubisoft's way of trying to bring us patches faster and more reliably with less bugs. The first step is that they test things on the technical test server, which I believe everyone on PC has access to, and they find a lot of bugs there. Then it moves on into, of course, internal testing, but then they release that patch on PC. If anything glaring or huge happens, let's say Mira's gadget, for example, can get meleeed through a wall, then they can hopefully make those changes before it gets introduced to the console version. There's only so much testing that Ubisoft can do internally before they can release it to the public. I mean, they could take a really long time. Other game developers do this like Blizzard, but it takes a long time for these patches to go live. Yes, they're much more polished, but this new system, hopefully, will mean that they catch a lot of the bugs on the technical test server. It moves on to PC, where they're sort of a guinea pig. Now, I could be wrong on this. Maybe that's not the way they think about it, but we're more of the guinea pigs, we find, because there's a lot of people playing on PC, we find if there's any huge glaring problems, something that needs to be resolved, and then hopefully everything can then transition on over to consoles. And so while it does kind of suck that consoles gets this content a little bit slower, I don't think it's going to affect DLC whatsoever, by the way. I think we are all going to get DLC at the same time, and it should get it at the same time. Hopefully this will be a good thing for the longevity of Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of having a sonar ball or grenade in Rainbow Six Siege? Do you hate that idea? Do you think it would be great? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.